There. So you want to do What We Do in the Shadows, right?
Uh, yeah, you can talk about it real quick. I'm guessing you're all caught up on season 4.
Yeah, I watched all the season 4. I watched all of that. I binged the series just recently, so I just finished season 4. Yeah, not that
It
long ago.
is, yeah, it's really bingeable. It's probably just off the strength of the first season. It does kind of have that The Office problem where it takes a couple episodes to really get going, but I think where it really hits its stride is episode 6 of season 1, which is the Baron's Night Out,
Nice.
which is where they take the Nosferatu vampire out on the town.
Oh, I love that. That is a great episode there.
It has one of the best comedic bits and endings to an episode where it's just them all drunk, stumbling around, trying to avoid everything that'll kill this like elder vampire. And the punchline, it's Guillermo opens the door and the sun lets in and he dies.
Uh, so if people don't know, so the premise of the show, it is based off the movie What We Do in the Shadows, the same name, which was directed by Taika Waititi. They made a television version of it with a different set of characters. Taika Waititi is producing this. The basic concept of What We Do in the Shadows is: what if vampires were stupid? Is kind of the basic kind of thing of it. It's like, what if you had vampires who, throughout most media, have been portrayed as very sophisticated, smart, suave, very in control, sexy. Which I think, well, actually, these vampires are still sexy too. They're still very sexy as well.
Yeah,
Especially.
this is true.
Especially the character played by Matt Berry, Laszlo. He definitely's got it. But yeah, you kind of have that there.
I mean, it's just the voice alone.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, the guy kind of oozes kind of sex appeal, I think there. And so that's kind of the basic setup of, what if you had these vampires who were pretty much just idiots and didn't know how to do most things. And I think it leads to a lot of great kind of comedic situations. And this show just finished its 4th season. You can watch it. I watched it on Hulu. It's on FX as well. If you just want to watch it live, it is on FX. So the kind of, you have Nandor, you have Laszlo, you have Nadia, and you have their familiar, who's played by Harvey Gillian, who's Guillermo, who they call Gizmo. Like sometimes Nadia and Laszlo will fuck up his name and call him Gizmo. Which adds to a lot of good humor moments, and done in the style of like the movie. It's the mockumentary style where you see that. Where I said that's kind of seems like it's kind of making a comeback again. A lot of the kind of mockumentary stuff. I was talking about that when we did that Sterling K. Brown movie. What was that movie called?
Honk for Jesus, save your soul.
Honk for Jesus, yeah. And then I was like talking about that, and then you also had Abbott Elementary as well, which was popular. So yeah, I think it's kind of making a little bit of a comeback there. What are kind of some of your thoughts on the show, and what do you love about the show?
Something I love about the show, typical of that kind of Taika Waititi sense of humor, you never know where a joke is gonna go. There are very obvious setups to certain bits, but the punchline is completely different from what you're expecting, which I think is very refreshing for a comedy show like this. And and something that I think the show does really well is all of the bits are kind of rooted into who a lot of these characters are. Like one of my favorite bits was in season 2, where it's just Laszlo running away from a fight and he takes up an entirely different persona. Or the running joke this season where Nandor has a djinn who grants him a whole bunch of wishes.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of great because where the Jin, who we just saw like a version of that in 3,000 Years of Longing, is what kind of a version of that. And it's funny when he said like 90% of my business is just dick enlargement. That's like 90% of my business. You know what I mean? It's just kind of dick size.
90, that's That's like the first wish that most people give.
So I thought that was kind of good. I thought that was pretty funny. There's kind of lots of great moments like that. And I think this gets kind of more expounded upon in the second season when they explain that Harvey Gillian's character Guillermo has got like Van Helsing, comes from the Van Helsing bloodline, so he's like a legendary.
Yeah, he's a direct descendant of Van Helsing.
Uh,
And he's like naturally so amazing at killing vampires.
and it extends. You see in season 4 when he brings his family over, even to his family, where they even like it's
Mhm.
just in their blood to even just hate vampires. You know what I mean? Where they attack Nadia. That was I thought that was pretty great as well. So yeah, I thought that leads to some great comedic moments where he does these incredibly athletic things. You know, he just runs up a wall and jumps over it, which leads to a lot of great moments there. Which I really like him. And you see him; he's the voice of also Nightwing on not Batgirl. I'm sorry, Harley Quinn, the animated series on HBO
On
Max.
mhm. Yeah,
Which
and we also saw him last year in Werewolves Within, where he played one half of the small town's gay couple.
and he's also it got revealed in this series as well that he's a gay character as well there, and he's gay. So
Mhm.
that was kind of nice.
And yeah, and one of the better emotional beats that I think this show hits.
Yeah. So that was yeah, I thought that was kind of pretty nice where he kind of comes out to his family in the midst of them trying to be a mob trying to kill Nadia. I mean, even the grandma even grabs a stake and chases after her.
Yeah, that grandma's got some aim.
I mean, hey, it's that Van Helsing blood, man. It's there, man. They're just legendary vampire hunters. So I thought that was yeah, I thought that made for some kind of good material there when they kind of ended up doing that. I think all the them kind of interacting, kind of seeing these kind of different stories. I think kind of works really well, and then expanded upon because you have the introduction of a newer vampire in this, where it's an energy vampire. It's played by Mark Porsch,
Mhm.
who's Colin Robinson. He's basically every annoying person you have at work that just goes on endlessly and talks forever, and you try to exit the conversation, but they just keep going and going, and just basically just drains all your energy. Like that's his whole sole purpose. Is just to drain you, of your energy. He's not like a traditional vampire where he just bites you and sucks your blood. I
Mhm.
thought that made for a lot of good comedic stuff, especially when he had like a female rival who was like his female counterpart, and they're kind of battling in the
Yeah,
office. Yeah.
it's one of the best comedic scenes I've ever seen. It's just these two an energy and a emotional vampire just doing a dick measuring contest and slowly gaining more power. And that emotional vampire is played by Vanessa Bayer from SNL.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of pretty good. They did that with the Vanessa Bayer and him, and kind of going back and forth, and just basically they couldn't even continue doing it because they drained everybody in the office. Just from that. So
Yeah, but again, going back to Colin Robinson, he probably has one of my favorite episodes of the entire series, and that's Colin's promotion, where he gets promoted at work and realizes how powerful and terrifying he can actually be.
yeah. I kind of thought that was kind of a lot of great stuff with him. Did you ever think there was like any kind of weak stuff kind of going on in the series?
Well, we are pretty much about to get into that. And something that I think this season, this fourth season compared to the last three, I feel like this season was a little too quick to reset the status quo, because the third season ends with all of our main cast. Colin Robinson ostensibly dies. Nadja and Laszlo are going to go to England to run the Vampiric Council. Nandor is going to travel the world, and the first episode, not even the first like 10 minutes, they're all back in the house, and Laszlo is basically raising the baby Colin Robinson.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just thought they kind of resetted that just too quick. It kind of felt like the finale of the last season, season three, just kind of felt worthless. That's what you're saying.
That's pretty much how I feel about this first episode, and I think that that this season takes a little bit longer to get going versus previous seasons. I don't think that that season really found its leg until like episode 3, where they do the grand opening of this vampire nightclub that Naja has become obsessed with opening.
Mm, yeah. With like, I was gonna kind of bring up when you bring up the nightclub because in season four she kind of burns down the nightclub and intends for insurance because it's losing money, and then when the fireman shows
Mhm.
up and he's like, "Oh, you better have insurance," she says, "What's insurance? What's that?" Um, do you do you think that the way they kind of play the vampires for vampire, I mean, they've lived over hundreds and hundreds of years. Do you think that it's a
Mhm.
little kind of ridiculous some of the stuff that they kind of don't know? You know what I mean? Or you think it's that believable, really? I'm talking about
No,
believable with the show
because
of
they're
vampires, but
I mean, because probably their only real connection to that kind of world would have been Colin Robinson, and they mostly would have just ignored him anyway. So
mm,
it kind of makes sense that they would be that ignorant, and that's mostly the butt of this joke, is that all three of the vampire leads are just so old and have been around for so long, and all of this stuff is relatively new to them that they have no clue what the fuck we're talking about when we bring up like insurance and all of that.
yeah, and I guess it also goes to show to point out that a lot of these vampires they live such kind of isolated lives, from everybody else. You know what I mean? Just shut in and only kind of concerned about themselves. And I think it also kind of goes to show that. Do you think with this, do you have any like standout for you with this show? Like who do you think comes in as like a? Do you think like always you can I think count on them for a great laugh?
Oh, of course, the standout of as far as getting a great laugh is gonna be Matt Berry as Laszlo. But the standout episode I think is 6, which is written by Io Edebiri, who we just saw as in The Bear and is also the voice of Misty in Big Mouth. And
Mhm.
she probably wrote the funniest episode of the season, which was Private School, where it's the vampires trying to get baby Colin Robinson into private school.
Yeah, that I thought that was a good episode, especially like they basically killed the guy from all the times they were hypnotizing him. Like he had a massive
yeah,
like
they,
brain
yeah, they,
hemorrhage.
yeah, they reset the hypnosis for every possible combination of parents to try and get Colin into private school, even bringing back the puppet Nadja into one of them.
Yeah, I thought that was I thought that was kind of pretty good. I was like, especially the ending to that when they you find out he died. I was like, that is,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, the guy had a stroke. Yes, the normal brain can only take like 8 hypnoses. That man went through 421.
um, for me, I think
And also the reveal that Guillermo is embezzling money from the nightclub to help his family.
yeah. And anytime you see like Guillermo when he's outside of the house, like he's all dripped out. He looks like Scarface, like Tony Montana. Like he's got like probably a Versace shirt on with a Rolex. You know what I mean? It's unbuttoned a little bit. Like he just
and it's and it's like even and it's even in the episode. I just rewatched it today. It's slow. It's like you barely pick up on it until like the last reveal.
yeah. Yeah. So I kind of like that stuff there. Um, and do you think it's like I know it was also from the movie. You think it's necessary for it to be a mockumentary, or do you think that adds to the comedy of it with the whole mockumentary style?
I think that can I think being in this format, you get to play around with it, especially when you get to episode 8, where where the episode is essentially a Property Brothers parody, which I thought was one of the funnier episodes for its reveal.
Mm. Yeah, and you had those two actors who are famous, like the two twin actors, who usually you see them pop up in the comedies. They were in Better Call Saul during that episode where he was doing the promo for the music shop. There, they were
Yeah,
kind of
and those are the Sklar brothers.
Yeah. I loved it when they first came in the house and Nadia just basically just ate one of them immediately.
Naja just kills one of them.
um,
Yes, and yes, and Naja took us through a very deep guided meditation, and it just reveals that the entire crew is being hypnotized.
I would say for me, I think Nadia for me, I love a lot of stuff they do with her throughout the series, and her relationship with Laszlo, and then Matt Berry, I think is also kind of very good. I like, and I think they have kind of great
Just
chemistry.
the way yeah, just the way he pronounces certain things is a meme in itself. It's just when you came here in New York City.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him in more stuff. Actually, Matt Berry, I would love to see him kind of branch off and kind of do some more stuff. That'd be kind of awesome to see. I love the episode where they were kind of on trial. I think this was in the second season, I believe, when they were on trial from the Vampire Council, and then you had like all those big cameos, like Tilda Swinton was
Oh,
there.
that was that was like the penultimate of the first season. That
Oh, the
was like
first.
the vampire, yeah, the trial where it's just yeah. So the Vampire Council was Danny Trejo, Tilda Swinton, Evan Rachel Wood, and Wesley Snipes via Skype. Oh,
Yeah,
and Paul Rubin.
yeah.
And even them in the episode, they were kind of joking. It's like, is Rob here? Is like, nah, he's saying he's wants to leave that behind. Brad, Tom, nah, they ain't coming.
And I love how they reference like Wesley Snipes' blade. They were like, "Well, can he even come? I mean, he's a vampire hunter. I mean, what the hell?" And it's like, "Well, he is half vampire. I mean, you got to kind of give it to him there." And you also have some other actors who kind of come in from vampire movies because it had Donald Logue, who was in Blade. Daniel Logue was in Blade. He was also in
Yeah.
Gotham as well as what was his name? Character. I'm blanking on it right
Oh,
now.
Harvey Bullock.
Harvey Bullock, who I think was a great Harvey Bullock, by the way. Um,
Oh, he's fantastic.
and he kind of comes.
And so many yeah, we have so many great comedic talent that shows up as guests or recurring. Like this season we have Afian Crockett as Richie Suck, who's basically just like vampire Riza, and we have Fred Armisen as his human familiar and his manager.
Oh yeah, I
In
mean,
previous season, we got cameos by Donald Logue, David Cross, Scott Bakula, Benedict Wong, Craig Robinson, Haley Joel Osment, Mark Hamill.
and Mark Hamill has a great episode too, where he plays like a vampire, and his feud with Laszlo is really great. With the Vampire Council stuff, at the end of you said the penultimate episode of season one, what I loved about that, what was really funny is how they kind of kidnap Laszlo and Nandor. And it gets revealed to Nadia that he can't even tell the difference between any Eastern European woman with like dark hair and accent. He was like, it looks the same to me. Like I don't know the difference. Yeah.
Oh,
Even
that's season 2. That's
oh
the
this is
witches episode.
oh the witches episode. Yeah, that's the witches episode.
And it's like so much of the witches' magic is drawn through semen.
Yeah, and it also kind of got revealed in that episode that he also had sex with Nandor. Like him and Nandor have experimented. Like like characters like that just kind of open about it. It's like, yeah, it's happened. Yeah, whatever. We've lived.
I mean when you're immortal and you kind of experience everything, kind of like what we were talking about with Hellraiser. Eventually, you experiment there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess hey, they've done it before. So hey, shout out to them. They're trying something new, I guess. Um, yeah. So is there any other thing that you kind of didn't like besides kind of them didn't follow up on the ending of the third season?
Mm, I kind of wish that the third season elements from there were more touched upon here, but I feel like a lot of it is made up with a lot of the subplots with baby Colin Robinson, because this season, especially with Laszlo and Guillermo, it's talking about like fatherhood and dealing with a lot of the changes that a young person goes through. And something that I think is done excellently in the ninth and 10th episode of the season is when they get to that awkward age.
Mm. Oh, okay. Yeah. I with the baby Colin Robinson stuff. I don't know. I think sometimes it did kind of wear out its welcome for me. I think maybe it lasted a little bit too long. I did like eventually it just jumped to him jumping ages extremely fast. It was almost like House of the Dragon where they just jumped to him being a teenager real quick and then jumped to him being an adult. kind of immediately there. So I kind of, I think some of the stuff though was a little like, okay, I can kind of speed this up a little bit for me. But man, I mean, this was a really good show. I'm glad I checked it out. I've heard about it. I heard about a lot how good it was, and I'm glad I watched it because I think it is a joy to watch. It is very fun, and much like Reservation Dogs, I think it's easy fun to watch like each episode back to back, especially with a show like this. And they do a lot of great bits with a lot of the characters. To see Nandor, he had a great episode where it had the actress who was mostly a voice actor. She did like the voice of like Codenames Kid Next Door. She was number 5. She's mostly like done voice acting. It's the episode he kind of went off and was like tried to discover himself and do a retreat and ended up joining like this 80s kind of yoga cult.
Oh God, Cree Summer.
Yeah, Cree Summers. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
who's very fine by the way.
The wellness center. That's yeah. And she has some A-plus comedic delivery because it's like Cree Summer started a cult where it's like the formerly fanged, where it's just they pretend to act human except the humans are stuck in the 80s.
Yeah. And there's a there's a funny scene where she tries to say like this, no, this method works, it's great. Drink like where she eats an apple, and then she goes immediately just throws up in the trash can because anytime any vampire congests something that that is human food, they just immediately just projectile vomit. There you kind of see that. So, yeah.
And even the final like bit of the episode, it's like she convinces all of her followers that they're human again, and they all just walk into the sunlight. And it's like, well, back to the drawing board.
Yes, I think this is a lot of really great episodes with this that a lot of people really like. Do you think it gets brought up enough, like it's like best comedic show, like on TV?
I mean, I think it does. It just this past season 3 and 4. I think it's pretty much consistently nominated at the Emmy Awards for outstanding comedy.
Hmm.
It was in 2020 at least when it was in 2020 and 2021 for
Hmm.
seasons 2 and 3,
Ah,
and it's sweeping all of the like normal awards like the Saturn Awards, the Critics Association, the Golden Reels, all of those. Writers Guild for comedy series. It's nominated consistently.
nice, nice, nice. Um,
And Natasha Demetru, who plays Nadja on the show, she's won the Critics' Choice for Best Actress in a Science Fiction Series.
that's well deserved. I don't know who else was nominated, but I don't know. Fuck everybody else, I guess.
Kaven Novak, who was yeah, yeah, Kaven Novak, who was Nandor, he was also nominated, but he didn't win.
Okay, nothing for Matt Berry.
And all of the cast gets let's see, 2022 Hollywood Critics Association TV Awards. Kaven Novak and Matt Berry were both nominated for Best Actor in a broadcast cable series comedy.
Okay. Oh, what were you about to say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I had to like. Yeah, they separated through comedy. So,
Okay.
and Harvey Guillen was also nominated for a supporting actor.
Nice. Who I think he does a very good job as Guillermo and does really great. I'm interested to see what this kind of leaves off because it kind of leaves with him leaving and paying money to his old buddy that he met through in a vampire hunting club that he accidentally joined um, there. So,
Yeah, and something that is like consistently great every single season is just Guillermo gaining more independence from Nandor and from the other vampires.
yeah, because his whole thing is like he being a familiar. The whole thing is eventually being a familiar and then eventually becoming a vampire. That's kind of the whole journey that you want to go through. But he's been a familiar. I think they said it was like the start of season 1. What 10 years?
15 years.
15 years.
15 years.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah. He's tired of waiting. He wants to be a vampire. So maybe he'll be one. You think he'll be one at the start of season 5?
I hope so. I hope they don't just reset the status quo like they did with this season, because I think they wrote themselves in the corner where they literally can't.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Uh, I don't know if I would like him to become a vampire or not. I think I'd like him to more follow his vampire roots. You know what I mean? Go full Van Helsing. I think I would like to more see. and also get Craig Robinson back. It'd be cool to see him back. Uh, yeah. So that was What We Do in the Shadows.